First, let's take a look at configuring logon and logoff scripts with group policy.
Okay, let's just log back onto our 2008 enterprise server, and we're going to just look at a few more group policy settings. And again, there's so many we really just can't cover all of them, but we'll just go over a few more that you may want to take a look at yourself. By the way, this copy of 2008 server you can download free from Microsoft's website. Comes as an ISO. I just turned it into a VMware virtual machine, and that'll give you a chance to kind of use it and become familiar with some of the new 2008 features if you're interested in that. Let's go ahead and launch our MMC. I'll tell you what, let's do it a different way this time. I keep showing you guys the MMC way, and we'll scan our kitty cat a different way, so to speak. Administrative tools, and let's go to Server Manager this time. And once we load up Server Manager, I want to go to Features. Still waiting here. There we go, and there's our GPMC, Group Policy Management Console. Let's go ahead and load that. And let's open up for our domain, and we'll just look at the default domain policy this time. We've set up multiple policies in different places, but we'll look at the default domain policy and just some of the things we maybe haven't covered yet. Let's see, we've done software installation, RIS. If you've ever used RIS, you can set up RIS deployment options via group policy. Remote installation services allows someone to install an image of a Microsoft operating system over the network if they have a PXE compliant NIC card, and they can boot off the NIC card. And so they don't even have to have a CD or DVD in the computer. They can install the operating system and configure it right there off the network from a RIS server with an image on it. And it has to have multiple drives to have the images on one drive and the operating system on the other, but that's probably another topic for another time. Scripting, there's scripting for log on and log off, and let's take a quick look at that. Let's make ourselves a script. We'll just make a very simple script, and we'll do a text document, and we'll just call it logon script and give it the extension .vbs. We'll say yes, we want to change it, use the Windows scripting host is active, so let's just give it a short VB script command. I am a logon script, yay. And we'll go ahead and save that. And let's go back to our GPMC. And we can have scripts execute at both log on and log off. We'll just copy this and we'll rename it. And you also have this for your computer. You can have scripts run when the computer boots and or reboots on boot, and also when it shuts down, but we don't want to wait for the computer to boot up and shut down, so we'll just kind of hang out and use these log on and log off scripts. Takes a lot less time. And we'll make this one say I'm a log off script. And we'll change its message. Let's go ahead and change these two now. Let's go back here. And we're going to configure our logon script. Let's go ahead and add it, and these could be stored in a shared folder on the network, so they could be shared across the network if you want. But just to show you, we'll go ahead and have this apply our logon script VBS. Now, if they were, you'd want to make this a UNC path, a share, instead of an absolute path. But in this case, this is fine. We'll be able to use an absolute path. If I wanted to pass parameters to the script, I could do that here. So in this case, I have my logon script for logon. I'm going to click OK. And for log off, I'm going to go ahead and add my log off script. And again, it's on desktop and log off script. And again, if I had parameters, I could place them here. So there's my script. And OK. And let's go ahead and close this, and we'll test that out real quick. So again, we're just going to run GP update. Want to update or refresh our group policy and the replication thereof. And let's go ahead and log out. Notice here's my script now. I am a logoff script, boo. And then we will log on. I'm going to log on, and here, password, and remember that computer settings are applied first, and then user settings. So it's applying my user settings. And now here's my logon script. After my user settings are applied, I'm a logon script, yay.
Now let's take a look at creating a roaming user profile with group policy.
Now we want to add a subdirectory or subfolder. In this case, we'll add one for Austin Powers. He's a world traveler, super spy, travels the world defending truth and justice. So he may benefit from a roaming user profile. Now we want to carefully edit permissions on this. He's going to require full permissions to be able to write to it and read from it for his desktop settings to get that across the network. But we don't really want to give other users any permission on his desktop. This is going to be his personal desktop, so we want to edit the ACEs on the DACL here. And we'll have to deal with a couple of issues. We'll have to deal with inheriting permissions or inheritable permissions. We'll have to remove that, propagate that. We'll have to add Austin Powers. Let's go ahead and add Austin Powers here. I'm going to go into Advanced first, and we'll look at users. Let's go ahead and edit our permission system here. See where it says include inheritable permissions from this parent's object? When you see a box that's grayed out, like this, these permissions are inherited from a parent object on the child object. So users inherits all of these because the parent folder, in this case roaming users up here, has been granted all permission to the domain users group. So what we want to do is, to keep other users from being able to access his personal desktop, we're going to remove those permissions. I'll uncheck that box. When I do, notice I can copy all the current permissions on the DSL, or I can remove them, or I can cancel. If I remove them, then I would have to add those users back. I'm just going to say copy, but then I'll be free to break the inheritance, so to speak, if I want. And then we can also say replace all existing inheritable permissions and all descendants. That would be if there were child objects nested inside of these folders. In this case they're not, but I might choose to check that as well. And we'll go ahead and go out of here. And notice now they're not gray, but they're black. So if we were to edit them, we now have the option of deselecting them. So I want to keep administrators with full control or access. I want to add Austin Powers. It's very important that he has full permissions, and not just read, but he'll need write capability on his desktop to be able to modify and change things, and at least read capability to be able to load his wallpaper and things like that in his roaming profile. And then I'm going to remove this, in this case the users, the main users group. So now only Austin Powers and an occasional IT administrator or a member of administrators can access that particular folder for the roaming profile. Today we want to create a roaming user profile. So one of the first things that we'll need to do is, let's go ahead and create a folder that we can use to reassign our roaming users desktops and backgrounds and information to. Now recall that a roaming user profile is useful for if you have users who move around the network and they log on multiple workstations. Make a directory here called roaming users. In this case, what it allows them to do is whatever workstation they log in on the network, they'll get their desktop, their shortcuts and application settings and things. I wouldn't recommend using it for every user on the network because it can consume a great deal of bandwidth, copying the information back and forth across the network. But if you have a few users who travel quite a bit, such as users in your IT department, then they log in from various multiple workstations throughout the course of the day. This could be a very useful feature. So one of the things we want to do, we're going to go ahead and leave this group on here, the DACL users, but we want to edit it and give them full permission just because we're not sure who's going to be logging in and using this. We'll create subdirectories in this one directory or folder, and we want to want them to have the appropriate permission on their folder. So domain users, anyone who's an authenticated user in the domain will have permission on this folder. And let's go ahead and share it. Advanced sharing. We'll share this folder. Again, we're going to remove everyone that's a little bit less secure. Let's add domain users. And we'll give domain users full permission. And now that that's shared, let's just go check the UNC real quick. So our host name is Sarah, and there's roaming users. So we've tested that it's shared. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is go get the UNC path, and by that I mean the network path. So the resource locator or path of that would be, if I typed in the host name of the machine, I would go to roaming users and Austin Powers. And here's the path that I get. Enabled, I made my address bar visible here, but / Sarah, the host name or file server name, roaming users and Austin Powers. It's very important because you want to create a relative path to a roaming user profile, not an absolute path. An absolute path would be like C:, the drive letter partition. The problem with that is not every machine is going to be the same, and the profile is not going to be on the local machine. It's going to be on a file server. So we have to tell the user account when that user logs in to go fetch the profile from a file server on the network. And this is where it would be, or the folder where that would be. So I'm just going to copy that UNC there. And we'll close Windows Explorer. We're going to open Active Directory Users and Computers. And we'll look at creating sort of a full user profile here. Let's go to Northern Hemisphere. We'll open up the Austin Powers user account. And we want to go to Profile. And notice Profile Path here. Here's where I actually want to set up my roaming profile path. And if I had a logon script, I could set that up as well. And another interesting or fun thing, common thing that people do, for a home folder, connect Z2, and we could, in this case, Austin Powers, and let's make a subdirectory there called home. Let's do that real quick. So let's open up Explorer, and we'll go computer, and let's go to roaming users, Austin Powers. We'll make a subdirectory called home there. Okay, now let's log in as Austin Powers on our 2008 server. Notice a little message there, please wait for the user profile service. In this case, we're still logging on locally on this machine, but his desktop's been moved to a different location. And in this way, it'll be accessible from any workstation or server on the network. So let's make a few modifications here from the default, just so we can see the difference. So we'll change it to black. That's kind of mysterious. Nice black background there. Let's make a few other changes here. Why don't we put him on the classic desktop there. So we'll go to classic view, and let's go to taskbar and start. And Austin Powers, he likes kind of that classy menu. And let's say he wants to display his log off and doesn't want to use personalized menus, so you can kind of see what's going on. So now this is pretty much his desktop. And then we'll move a few things. Let's say we like everything over here. Move a few things over here. Alright, so this is Austin Powers' desktop. And now we're going to go ahead and log out. And now remember, we set up Austin Powers' desktop on the 2008 server. Now we've moved to a different location across the network. We're on a Windows Vista Ultimate client or workstation. And we're going to log in. So we're several buildings away or floors away or halfway around the planet, but we want to get our Austin Powers wants to get his desktop settings and configuration and access to programs and folders. He can do that now with this roaming user profile. So go ahead and log in and welcome. Now notice Vista. Okay, now Vista is applying, even though this desktop was set up on a different computer, and I'm logging into a completely different workstation. It's the same desktop. It's not the default Vista. but it's the modified one with the black background, the moved icons, and such. And so anything I do to this desktop on this workstation will be saved across the network when I log out. And then on the next workstation I log in, or the next server, I'll have my same desktop and my same configuration settings. So again, I'll log off Austin Powers, and now Vista will just again copy those settings or modifications and changes across the network. And again, if I log in, I move across the network, I go back onto the 2008 Enterprise server, and from a completely different machine, a completely different location, I'm still going to have the same desktop. Those changes I made when I was logged into Vista are now reflected on the Windows 2008 Enterprise server.
Finally, we're going to take a look at controlling folder redirection, Internet Explorer settings, and control panel features with group policy.
I'm going to do the MMC version of making it to the GPMC this time. For me, it's just quicker. And let's go ahead and open up our console and look at some of these other settings as well. So let's go here and here, and we'll just edit our default domain policy. We're not really going to change anything, but we'll look at some other services. So we've talked about RIS, we've talked about scripting. Let's look at folder redirection and Internet Explorer, and you can find that under Policies, Administrative Templates, and also here under Windows Settings. Any of these folders, notice, we can redirect via group policy. And again, your options are basic, redirect everyone's folder to the same location, or advanced, specify locations for various users or groups. And if I did, I could add a UNC path there for that location. So any of these that would typically be found locally on a machine, we can redirect out across the network and redirect these things under group policy. Lots of options there: desktop downloads, pictures, documents. Let's see, covered everything there. Public key policies. If you're using digital signatures or a PKI public key infrastructure with a private and public key pair, with certificate or hash generated values, you can make those changes or adjustments there, those settings there. Administrative templates, in addition to controlling control panel. Just look at some of the options here. The ability to add or remove programs. Just about any part of a Windows operating system can be tweaked and controlled with group policy. It's amazing when you think of all the settings that you have control over. Even replication and Active Directory, just all kinds of things there. Here are some Windows components. Look at all of the Windows software and applications that you have access to in each one of these. Tablet PC, Task Scheduler, Windows Calendar, Windows Movie Maker, Windows PowerShell, Windows Sidebar, Windows Update, Windows Mail. There's just so many different things that you have. The last one we want to look at, let's look at Internet Explorer maintenance, because it's pretty amazing what you can do with this as well. And you can set default program settings, zones, and ratings. Say that you're maybe possibly in elementary school or something. We'll go to security. If you're elementary zone, if you're in elementary school or a school or settings, some setting where you don't want people going to naughty websites, then you could basically, if we wanted to, we could configure in this case, a level of security that's customized specifically to wherever we apply that GPO. So wherever that GPO is applied, in that case, those users would have restricted access to the internet or restricted access to internet sites. So if I went to restricted sites, I could add restricted sites here that they could not go to. I could add my trusted sites here if I wanted, that they were allowed to go to. And also for content ratings, notice that we can go here, and I'll just move the slider a bit. Let's go. Fear, intimidation. Well, here's some of the content ratings. Content ratings would, create fear, intimidation, alcohol use, drug use, depiction of gambling, tobacco, weapons, language, nudity, sexual material. Here's a slider here. I'll move the slider back and forth. So unrestricted access, some, limited, and then no access whatsoever. So you have a fine level of control that you can specify in terms of what people are allowed to do with their web browser, what websites they're allowed to surf to, and exactly where they're allowed to go on the internet. So those are some just some amazing group policy features or settings that you can apply on your network using Windows 2008 Enterprise Server and Windows Vista Ultimate, or Business Edition if you prefer, but in this case we're using Vista Ultimate. And this is by no means an exhaustive, this is just a cursory introduction to group policy. We've left so much out, but this will give you an idea of its capabilities and what it can do. And if you're willing to spend, probably several weeks of your time, you can explore this a lot further and its capabilities.
There are many more capabilities with group policy. We've only covered a few.